My name is Ohiga Muturi, and welcome back to Let's Create Africa, the webinar. Yes, you can see my background is as red as the people I'll be talking to today. I'll be talking to a representative from the Kenya Revenue Authority, that is Corazon Aquino, but I'll let her introduce herself properly. My name is Ohiga Muturi, and this is Let's Create Africa, the webinar, where we talk about business innovation, the SDGs, and governance. Guys, you've seen and you know what's been going on: taxes, taxes, and more taxes. But today we want to have a very interesting conversation on the introduction of what exactly is happening with KRA, the governance structure, what's going on, what's been happening, and how can you be able to pay your taxes. You don't want to be caught flat-footed. So without further ado, welcome to Let's Create Africa, the webinar. We begin right now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to today's topic: taxes, taxes, and more taxes. I'm having a representative, Corazon Aquino, from KRA. She's the Marketing and Communications Tax Education Representative at KRA. And for those who don't know, I mean, we're really talking about taxes today and how to cover yourself, how to be on the safe side. For those who don't know, now you know the taxes are essential for funding government services and redistributing wealth. And you've seen how wealth is being distributed in our country. But they can also be a burden on businesses and individuals, as we have also seen for those who have been through it. In the recent months, there has been growing concern about the high level of taxation in Kenya, and there is no consensus on how best to reduce the tax burden while still ensuring that the government has sufficient revenue. So I brought to you somebody who can actually tell us what's going on and hopefully give us a way forward on how we can also be well prepared on handling our taxes and responsibilities we have to the country as patriots, or so I believe. So, Corazon Aquino, tafadhali, please introduce yourself. Let my people know who you are and what you're about and who you're representing today.
Thank you so much, Wahiga. So good afternoon, everyone. I think it's now evening. Good evening, everyone. It's such a wonderful opportunity to be here today. It's an interesting topic that you chose, but we are really looking forward to just have an engaging opportunity. So my name is Corazon Aquino. I work for Kenya Revenue Authority and Marketing and Communication Department. So my job is to educate everyone about taxes. And by everyone, I mean even the young ones. We also educate them about taxes just so that they'll be able to understand. This is a job that I'm passionate about and a job that I've done for the last 17 years. So I'm really looking forward to just having a fruitful conversation and be able to just clarify and be able to help you to be able to comply better. So with that, I'll take it back to you, Wahiga. Thank you.
Asante sana. Thank you. You've done it very well. This is really your job. Thank you so much. But ladies and gentlemen, and Corazon, even as we begin, just tell us what exactly is going on. I mean, most of us are caught flat-footed, and we're wondering what exactly is going on with the tax changes, tax policies, etc., the regulation ongoing. Tell us what exactly. Actually, let's start with, what does KRA do? Maybe actually most people don't know what they do.
So what is our job? And I always say this just so that you'll be able to understand. Picture yourself, you are in high school. And there in high school, or even in your household, we all have different roles. You probably have the prefect for DH, the prefect for grounds. So you have these different people who have different roles. So the role that KRA plays, we play it on a national level. So at some point, the government in this particular case, me and you, we cannot all govern the country. True or false? So for that particular reason, everyone is assigned a duty. And for the president, so to speak, he forms the role of our father. So his job is to be able to take care of us. And in the process, he needs people along the way to be able to just assist him to be able to achieve the vision that he has for us, again, the citizen, me and you. So in that particular equation, Kenya Revenue Authority falls under the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning. And our role is very simple, to be able to support the government to mobilize funds and to mobilize funds to be able to cater for the growing expenses that we have. So in a nutshell, our job is simple, to collect that fund from you so that again, it will come back to us. There's a Kiswahili saying that says, kidogo kidogo hujaza kibaba. So if Wahiga, I was to tell you, as a country, we want, and the SGDs, and this is how Vision 2030 looks like, and then I tell you, Wahiga, do it on your own. And it will cost maybe trillion, 1,000 trillion for us to get there. You see, if I leave that burden to you, it will mean you have to give us 100 trillion. But then if I say, hey, listen, we'll be able to spread. At the end of the day, Kenya is our country. It's not attached to a particular person. So what we do is be able to administer the law that has been put in place to be able to collect these taxes and then submit it back to the government so that they'll be able to achieve the plans and cater for the expenses that they have for us. Thank you, Wahiga.
Asante. Kwa hivyo umesema kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. Sawa sawa. We've heard you loud and clear. So where exactly, what taxes exactly are you picking, and from which citizens exactly, which cadre, which level, etc, etc? What are the pieces of tax that you're picking from different individuals?
So Wahiga, the first thing that we should know as Kenyan citizens is one principle of taxation is fairness. Fairness and equity is what drives the whole taxation system. So what we usually look at is one, we look at first, the nature of business that you're doing. Second, how much turnover are you making? And then just so that we'll be able to engage you, we do a lot of engagement with the various businesses that we have so that we find and come up with a tax that is easy for you to comply with. So that being said, so we have different categories of taxpayers that we have. We have the MSMEs, and this is ranging between a turnover of 1 million to 25 million. We have a special tax that we collect from them, and we call it the turnover tax. This is charged at 3% flat rate of the gross that you receive. And accounting for the turnover tax is fairly very easy for you to do it. We've made it in such a way that you don't need to keep all the books, you don't need to do all those. We only ask you how much did you make for the month, and the system will be able to quickly just calculate it for you. And then we have the second category where we look at VAT. And for value added tax, if you have a turnover of more than 5 million, and what you're dealing with is goods that attract VAT, then we ask you to register for VAT. And one thing that I just want to clarify is, and it's a very common misconception, when you are registered for VAT, it does not mean that you're the one paying that VAT. The only thing it means that you are assisting KRA. It's like you're acting like an agent. You're assisting KRA and the government at large to be able to collect the taxes from the various consumers. So you'll find that maybe if it's a luxurious item, you'll find that if you look at your receipts, you'll find there's an aspect of VAT to it. So you as a business, what you'll do for us is to collect that amount and then submit it to us at the end of the day. And finally, we have income tax. Income tax is fairly wide. It has a lot of subsections to it. And one of the common one, I think this one everyone knows, is pay as you earn. So the more you earn, the more you tax you. It's mostly what we pay as employees. So the employer collects this again on behalf of the government and then submits it to KRA, so that at least as employees, we also play our fair share of paying the taxes. And then for
No.
the businesses,
So before you continue, so let me confirm, this is still all under MSMEs, category 1.
no, category 1 for MSMEs is just turnover tax.
Just an
Turnover
overtax.
tax, just turnover tax, yes.
Okay.
But
Okay.
even if you're an MSME, it does not mean that you cannot register for income tax. It does not mean that you cannot register for VAT. Again, like I mentioned earlier, you can be an MSME in terms of turnover, but when I look at the kind of goods you're dealing with, probably you have a hardware somewhere. And this hardware, you have to buy it from someone. So that someone, that supplier that you're getting from, is charging you VAT. And remember, VAT is output minus input of the VAT that you're charged.
Yes, yes.
So for that particular reason, we'll look at you and we'll advise you, because this is still within the law. We'd advise you, because you've already paid 16%, and the law allows you to claim another 16% on the output that you charge. You're better off registering for VAT. Or
So before you continue, just because somebody has also just thrown in a question, to make it clear,
yes,
category 1 is MSMEs turnover tax, right?
yes, yes,
Category 2 is VAT.
yes,
Category 3 is the income tax.
yes.
Brilliant. Now continue.
Now I can continue. Yes, and
Yes, please.
so category 3 is income tax. Income tax is fairly wide, has quite a lot of sub taxes within it, so that at least to cater for the different kinds of customers that we have out there. And amongst part of the category is what we call the monthly rental income. And this is a specific tax that we set aside for those of us who are in the residential rental space, so that even them, at least they get to pay a fair share. This is usually done at 10%. So in a nutshell, Wahiga, what I'm trying to get at is we usually look at the business, because remember, business are dynamic in nature. And then we engage with that particular sector that you're dealing with, and then we work around and come up with taxes that we feel will be suitable for them, and then submit that proposal for approval. If it's approved, then we'll be able to implement the different taxes that we have.
Okay. So
Yes.
just to bring us up to date, what are the specific at the moment? What are the specific changes we've had within the tax policies under whichever category?
For turnover tax in particular, it used to be at 1%. So that will be is going up by 3%, so that at least we'll be able to increase the tax base. For pay as you earn, we've stretched it a bit. It used to be from 10% at a graduated scale up to 30%, but we've since added a 32% and also a 35%. And this is just purely extending to see if we can get in more for those who will not struggle as much. That is one key change that has also taken
Sorry,
place.
somebody's asking you to repeat that one.
Okay, so on the changes that we've done is one, the turnover tax has increased from 1% to 3%. 1 to 3%, yes. The pay as you earn, we had tax bands that were ending at 30%, but what we've done is we've stretched the tax bands to include a 32% and a 35%. So anyone earning between half a million to 800,000 will now be charged. Anything above that will be charged at 32%, and then 800 and above will now incur an extra charge of 35%. So that is a change that has happened on the pay as you earn front as well. For the MRI, we have reduced it down to 7.5. It used to be 10%, but we've brought
MRI
it
is doing
down to,
what exactly?
sorry,
Just to get
sorry,
the
the monthly. Thank you, Ahiga, for for just reminding me. The monthly rental income has gone down from 10%, the current 10%, to 7.5%, but this will be effective in January of 2024.
so
So
that's
those are the
10 that's 10 to 7.5.
yes, 10 to 7.5.
That one has
Yes,
gone down.
yes.
Okay.
Uh, I,
Okay.
I'll discuss about amnesty, but I'll discuss it as we'll be discussing some other areas, so just we get to understand it better. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. How, if there's a way to engage with KRA just to get this information, where can people actually even get this information from, including the changes? Because some of the
Mhm.
changes have happened without um, significant public participation or just access to the information. How can that happen?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, Wahiga, my job is purely to educate. So my job will entail educating you from whichever front. So first of all, we offer our services for free. We do not charge even a single shilling. So we have lots of sessions that we have virtually. So you will find, if you go through our social media spaces, you'll find us advertising every other time that we have sessions running virtually. We have a perennial session that even if I get one person, it is always standing there. Every Thursdays at 11 a.m., we have a virtual session. And this particular virtual session is guided by what are the changes that are happening. So if anyone managed to tune in into that session today, they were taken through amnesty, because that was the most emerging trend that we had. If anyone joined the session in July, we were discussing housing levy and payers and the changes in pay as you earn. So we usually look at what is trending and what are people really eager and what is it that they want to learn, so that we'll be able to just clarify those issues. Another thing that we do is we have strategic partnership, and we liaise with key players in different sectors. Let's say animators, for example, they'll send us questions, and then they'll be able to mobilize their members, and we'll be able to address the specific issues that they have. Remember, tax can be a bit complex. If I give you too much information, you'll go home and you'll wonder, okay, how much that was too much information for me to process. So we have those sessions as well. We have sessions like what we are having right now, where you give us a set of questions that you want us to address, and then we'll be able to address. There's something we call Ushuru Mashinani. And Ushuru Mashinani, we joke and say it is like Times Towers on wheels. So every service that you can get to on Times Towers, you can get it through our mobile bus. So we'll go set up in different areas, in chief camps, in estates, in schools, whatever it is that we feel it's necessary for us to be able to offer this service and educate. We have a robust call center. Anytime you call our call center, you will be able to find trained officers who will be able to address any issue that you have. Our social media is quite active, so pick any of your choice. Instagram, we're even on TikTok, by the way, Wahiga, just to be able to pass this particular information. And then we have a content repository. We call it KRA TV. So if you tune in to KRA TV right now, you'll be able to find different categories with information that have been clarified for you to be able to just understand. You've realized that we've sort of changed how we do our education. We no longer just do the PowerPoints. We do the PowerPoints, yes, but we also do it in conversation, because we realize when I speak, you've just corrected me when I mentioned MRI. To me, I thought I had communicated, but you see, when you have it in the form of of a conversation, then you'll be able to stop me and I'll be able to clarify where there's an issue. So we have e-brochures. All this information is available for you to just be able to visit our website, visit our social media spaces, even walk in. We have presence in all Huduma centers. We have presence in over 47 areas, just so that you'll be able, we call them tax service office, for you to just be able to walk in and be able to get assistance. If I can give an example, in Nairobi, for example,
Yes.
we have an office, a tax service office in Samia. You know Samia Business Park? That
Yes,
is to
yes.
be able to make it very easy for our customers to be able to access any information, get any clarity that they require for that particular area. So there's no issue of jam, traffic. At least we've catered for people in that side of Nairobi.
Oh,
If you go to Westlands, we have an office in Westlands. Again, just there to be able to cater for you. We have an office in Isili. We have an office in Upper Hill. And all these offices are just complementing the Times Towers that as you know it. And this is purely to be able to bring these services close to you. And if you go to the Huduma centers as well, you will find our presence there and in all border stations across the country. Thank you,
okay.
Ahiga.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for making a few things clear. I would like to say thank you for the people who have joined: Brian Derito, James Juma, Moses Otieno. Thank you so much for joining. I see Lady Charlene Tembo. Thank you so much for joining. Everybody, please continue this conversation because we are having a conversation with KRA itself, just to get to understand what exactly is going on. I'm having a conversation with Corazon Aquino, the marketing and tax education manager at the department, and she'll continue with this conversation even as we're talking. I see a lot of questions around amnesty and exemptions, but we'll
Yeah.
get there.
Yes.
We'll get there. Everybody, please remember to comment, like or share, subscribe, like or share, and even comment, because we want your questions. We want to know what exactly we should be asking. What are you concerned about when it comes to matters taxes? Send in your questions anonymously. We actually sent that out earlier in the week, and we received more than 384 questions. I'm sorry, we can't even cover all that, but thank you for joining us. We are Let's Create Africa on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, or you can get me also as Waihiga K. Muturi. The other question we would like to ask is, you've talked about the key changes to the tax regime. What are the main tax challenges you've seen businesses facing and individuals? You can start with either in Kenya today.
Of the
Apart from filing late.
That was going to be my first. It actually, hands down, that still remains the biggest
So,
challenge that I've seen with our customers. But aside from that, another huge problem that we've seen is people just failing to file their returns at all. So they do not file at all, at all. They don't file, they wait when they've gotten a tender, and then they're told you need a tax compliance certificate. So that is when they realize that they need to go back and file a return. So for me, number one would be that people failing to file their returns at all. Of course, you've mentioned about the delay in returns filing, but the other issue that I've noted is inaccuracy. People give information that is not accurate. Remember, and if I can give VAT as an example, VAT is usually twofold. It's output minus input. Meaning, if I bought maybe a glass from the supermarket, and then if I look at the receipt, they told me that that glass costed 100, but of the 100, maybe 20 shillings was VAT. It's just an hypothetical example. So when it comes to filing return, remember there is this 20 bob, which is the VAT amount. And then there's the 80 bob, which is your actual buying price. So when most of the businesses now come to price their goods and they come to now make their sales, they take the full 120 as their buying price, forgetting that what KRA is interested in, or the law prescribes, is let's just deal with the VAT amounts, the 20 shillings at hand, so that in your case, when you now, let's say if you're to take the 80 shillings and then subject it to your margin, your profit margin, and then now subject it to VAT, those are the amounts that you're dealing with. I know, Ahiga, that is a bit complicated. It might need a bit of calculations, but we have information. I'll be able to share after this just simple calculations to be able to just clarify what it is that I'm saying. So there's that. You give me inaccurate information. Either you quote it so high or you quote it so low. It is a huge mistake that businesses make at the end of the day. Because remember, the KRA system is it's a fully automated system. So if you give it garbage in, garbage out. So I will really encourage businesses and individuals to be able to make sure that when you're feeding in that information, make sure that you feed in the correct information at the end of the day. And then again, related to that, you'll find that people, when it comes to claiming expenses, you'll find that you claim expenses that are not related to your business. Because we've said when it comes to income tax, the law says that I sold 5 million, but out of that 5 million, if I look at my expenses, they're around 900,000, for example. So you'll find that if a KRA person was to come and look at what you've claimed as 900,000, they'll find people are even claiming what is personal, the school fees that they paid, especially for sole proprietor. You put everything. So it's a mistake, and I know it comes from probably not understanding what it is that they need to claim and what it is that they do not need to claim at the end of the day. So, and finally, people fail to claim their refunds. You are entitled to a refund if you find that maybe you are overtaxed for whichever reason. People don't claim that. Sometimes people are not aware that they have some incentives that they are given. For example, like if you have mortgage and you're a sole proprietor, that particular amount that you're paying towards serving interest towards that particular mortgage is an exempt amount. So people fail to claim those incentives. They are not aware of the incentives that they have. They give us inaccurate information. When they are required to claim their refunds, they also do not do that as well. So those are top of my list of the frequent mistakes that businesses and individuals make in general.
Interesting. So I would like, actually, if there's anybody there who has not claimed taxes or has actually claimed, asked for their refund and received it, I would really like to know who that is. Just, I won't even mention your name. I'll just be happy to know there's somebody who's ever received their refund. What advice would you give to businesses and individuals who are new to the Kenyan tax system? That would be foreigners, for example, and even people who are just entering business for the first time properly.
The first advice I'd give: KRA is your friend, not your enemy. That is free advice that I'll give you. It is always better to comply than not. It is easier, it is cheaper, it is easier to comply. And the reason why I'm saying that KRA is your friend is, if you were to call someone and tell them we've noticed that probably you've not been filing your returns, come so that we'll be able to assist you, customers will normally shy away from coming. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, tax can be complex, that we agree, and it changes several times. And remember, what will qualify as an allowable expense to your business, you could be having at that particular financial year, we could be giving some incentives. So we do not expect you to know all this. You can even come stumble on that information, but still it might not be clear for you. So for that reason, that is why we are everywhere. We are everywhere to be able to help you and guide you through. If you feel that you do not understand it and it's complex for you, I'd also just encourage if you can get an expert in that particular area, the tax consultants, they'll be able to help you because this is their area of expertise. They'll be able to assist you to make sure that you do not make these mistakes and end up paying more or less and getting penalized at the end of the day. So, so for the advice that I'll give, especially to the newly registered businesses, we usually have sessions immediately when you realize that you are a newly registered taxpayer Wahiga. What we normally do is we create for you a customized session for you. So when we invite you for that session, please, we encourage you to come so that we'll be able to unpack and clarify any areas that you could be having issues on it. And reach out. Reach out. Our job is to be able to clarify so that we can collect that revenue at the end of the day. Thank you, Wahiga.
Thank you. Moving on, just getting a bit deeper into the work that KRA is doing. What are KRA's priorities for tax enforcement in this coming year as it continues?
So we have something called amnesty that is running, and amnesty is started in September, and it will run through to June of 2024. I know, Wahiga, you're wondering why I'm saying amnesty is an enforcement
Yeah,
tool.
that's actually my next. I was about to.
I know,
I was about to interject.
I know you're just about to ask me how that
Exactly.
is an enforcement tool. Because you see, when we engage, I said part of the key role that we play as KRA is to engage to just understand the taxpayers. So one of the things that we realized in the engagements that we have is that they do not understand this thing. They don't understand it at all. So in as much as maybe they could be having bills that has been there and penalties and interest, even if I was to come and ask you as a business to pay, chances are very high you might not be able to do that. And we have a unit that is called debt and collection. Their job is to be able to now follow up and collect on those particular penalties and interests that have accrued. So what we've done, the law has put in place an opportunity for you to be able to clear. Unaona tukusamehe. You just forget because part of me enforcing is collecting those debts that are uncollectible. So we will samehea you, for lack of a better word, for any penalties and interest that you have incurred. Any penalties and interest that you've incurred. And what this will do to us, Wahiga, is you see, because we have a whole debt portfolio, and if you look at them, you'll find this was a student who took up PIN number when they were going to university. They did not even know that they were supposed to be filing their returns. It is there, they can't collect. So if we remove and clean up our data as we go, then it will mean it will be able to give us an opportunity to just focus on debt and be able to chase where we really need to be able to follow up. It also encourages the taxpayer. Remember, KRA is not here to make it hard for you so that you'll be able to enforce. We just want to encourage voluntary compliance. That is very key for us. We encourage as much as possible for you to comply voluntarily, hear you out, clear this debt so that you'll be able to do that. Another thing that we do, don't remember when many people are there, you are probably bound to find we have something we call the compliance model. And in that compliance model, there's a pyramid at the lower bottom, which means majority of where Kenyans are, is people who do not generally understand this whole tax issue. So for those particular ones, we help them and we assist. So if you go to the next one, you'll find some understand, but they're having a bit of challenges to go through the system. So for those, we also assist them and train them so that they'll be able to do on their own. But even as we go, Ahiga, trust you me, we have those ones who like to just test the waters to see nikikosa kufile returns, then what will happen, or this money is due in this particular due date, let me not pay and just see what happens. So for this particular category, we try as much as possible to deter them. So, and we will deter by the law provides for penalties. So if you file late, there'll be penalties. There'll be interest if you delay to make the payments in good time. And this is just so that you'll be reminded that it's time for me to pay taxes as a way of investment. And then we have at the top of the pyramid, people we call diehard. I can tell you for sure, it's not just in taxation, everywhere. If you go to any institution, you'll find that special category called diehard. So for the diehard, we have legal um, legal areas in place that we now come and enforce. And enforcing is where we have will either take you to court, and then the court will decide. There is jail time that also forms part of what we'll do just to be able to enforce you to do that at the end of the day. And I can tell you for sure, we still do audits. So, in as much as you will tell me, because we believe in self-assessment, but like I said, one thing we've noticed is people are giving misinformation. So every once in a while, you'll find you will be notified that you'll come and do audits, so that you'll ask you to present your books of accounts, so that you can just be able to counter check and see if that is what is really happening. So in a nutshell, those are the few ways that we try and enforce and be able to bring in more taxpayers and be able to be in the same page in terms of revenue collection.
Interesting. It's
Yes.
actually very interesting that you
Yeah.
brought up that up, especially on enforcement and using what did you call it, amnesty as part of
Yeah.
enforcement. So somebody's actually
Yeah.
asking. Actually, we already got proof. Neptune Wayeta says, I have once claimed refund, followed up, but I was never successful. So how can they follow up on that? Because the next question then is, how do I claim my dues? From one of our viewers, Dwesa, who says, how do I claim the refund? Try to claim, but seems as though KRA wants me to pay them instead.
So allow me to just take you through the refund, how the refund process looks like.
Tafadhali.
Because yes, there are different scenarios that might arise in you getting a refund. Remember, our system is it's a fully automated system. So if you tell me that again you sold 5 million, and then your expenses come to about 900,000, you need to list all the expenses that you will put in place. So when you do a refund, when you file your return, you will file your return, and of course you're going to give us evidence to be able to back this thing up. So upon you filing your return, if you find yourself in when it's negative or in brackets, then it means that KRA needs to give you a refund, right? So what we will do, we will look at the return, and then the system will now push that particular task to someone, to a staff in KRA. So the role of this particular staff is to be able to just look at those particular claims that you're saying, that you've mentioned. So we'll look at them. At some point, we'll call you just to be able to probably present more evidence to back this up. And then once we are satisfied with it, we will approve that refund. Now, what normally happens, and I know this is why some people will find themselves either being asked to pay, because upon that verification point, it will depend with what we find. But you can be rest assured, we are definitely going to have you explain to you so that you'll be able to know what happens. But in an event that you've done, your information is accurate and you're liable for a refund, what normally happens is when you pay the money to KRA. Remember, our role is to collect. And when you collect that tax, it goes to, for lack of a better word, it's virtual. We don't collect money. It's not tangible. It goes directly to treasury for them, to be able, they're the ones who receive the excess tax that you pay. So when it comes to refund, I still need to go back to treasury for treasury to be able to release that amount for you to be able to get your refund back. So the reason why sometimes it will take a bit of long time is, remember, treasury has to plan for all of us. So they'll do it as a matter of priority. So they give refunds, yes. It's just that they give the refunds in phases. So when you apply musikufe moyo, it is still coming. It's just that it's being released in bits by bits, in bit by bit. Yes.
Okay, asante sana. So just to make sure I also cover some bit of points that have been asked also by Sarah Bakate and the likes, every other person. There's the question in regard to the digital tax. Please explain that, especially in lieu of people who are offering services, influencers like yourself and digital creators. kindly advise on the digital tax, its implementation, if it has already been implemented, and how to manage that. What's the ongoing conversation around that, and how will you enforce it, and how do the creators themselves actually be able to pay for that?
So first, on why is it there? That's the first question that I'm going to address.
That is okay.
Yes. Remember, when I said that kidogo kidogo hujaza kibaba, we need to be able to bring all of us, actually all of us as Kenyans, if we were to come together and pay our fair share, our country can be very far. And Wahiga, I know you can agree with me that we say money has moved. Money is no longer in the old school where you used to get it. Money has moved, and money has moved to the digital space. That is something I'm sure all of us, even our audience, will be able to agree with me. So it is only fair for us to be able to just bring the players in the digital space to be able to pay for these particular amounts at the end of the day. So what happens with the 5% withholding tax that has been introduced? The only thing that you're doing is giving you an opportunity to play your fair share. We've done it with Kina Uber before. So Uber, they pay what you used to call digital service tax. Kina Airbnb, all these people who are players in the digital space, but are not necessarily Kenyans. So that at that particular moment, even them, they get to changa in this particular basket that we have. But in the Finance Act that has just been passed, there was an introduction of 5% withholding tax. Remember, Wahiga, the 5% withholding tax, I know I didn't mention it when I was giving a list, is the 5% and the withholding tax that is paid is it's taxes that we paid for professionals in different professionals pay different rates of withholding tax. So we said for this particular players, they'll pay a withholding tax of 5%. So how does withholding tax work? If you have a PIN number, Wahiga, if you have a PIN number and you know your password, making payments for the withholding taxes is the easiest thing. All you have to do, it won't even involve you making any returns per se, because it's just a payment. So if you go to our portal or your iTax portal, you'll be able to see there's an option for making payments. So amongst one of those options is an option for making withholding tax payments. So for those who will be able to interact after this, you'll find that there's a whole list of the different areas that we have. And one of those category will be for content creation. So you will pay your 5% of the amount that you've received, and you'll be able to get that money. So I know you're probably asking yourself, how then will KRA know that I've traded? So
I did not comment on that, but somebody is actually asking.
yes.
It's good you brought that. Somebody who I won't mention their name is asking, how exactly do we avoid taxes? Is that even in your purview to comment?
How do you how do, anyway, that one is a story for another day, but we'll be able to talk about it.
Sawa, sawa.
But anyway, I wouldn't advise for us to avoid the taxes, because again you will be burdening again the government, which you've just established is me and you. So this 5% that you pay, Wahiga, because I'd ask the content creators and people in the digital space, how do they get that payment? That is the question that they should ask themselves. It has to go through a certain gateway. So that certain gateway is information that is there available. And with that information, you'll be able to tell this is how much you received. So KRA has that information. But then you see, what I have is what you've received. What I do not have is whether or not you had to hire uh, um, someone to do the lighting. You have to hire a camera person. That is not story that I really know. So my advice that I'll give to players in the digital space is, one, pay the 5%. And this 5% is, it's simple. It's just making your payments paying your taxes in advance. If
Just
let's say you're
confirm. Just confirm.
yes,
That's 5% of what? 5% of the total minus expenses, or
no, this
5%
5%,
without.
this particular 5% is the total. Is the total.
So 5% of the
But
total.
yes, 5% of the total. But like I mentioned earlier, this is just an amount that you've paid in advance. And this is what happens. You see, in as much as you'll pay the 5% of the withholding, you still need to file your return at the end of the year. So when you'll be filing your return at the end of the year, what you'll do for us is, now you will give us a report and say, I made 20,000 for this gig, 30, 50. You'll give us all of it cumulatively. And then now write to us what was your expenses that were directly attached to that particular gig that you received. So once you do that, the system will automatically now calculate for you what you're supposed to pay as taxes. In an event that, let's say you paid 10K, for example, you paid 10K for withholding, and when you realize at the end of the year, you're supposed to pay 50, the system will minus the 10 that you paid earlier. You see the withholding tax that was deducted earlier, it will minus and only ask you to pay the difference, which is 40K. In an event that you paid 10 and after calculations and removing all your expenses, you find that maybe you're liable for a refund, then you will do that and make an application for a refund. So that is, in a nutshell, how we collect, how we enforce, and how we'll be able to go about that particular tax that you've just mentioned.
Okay, interesting. Actually, now saying that, moving on to consultants,
Mhm.
what are the number of taxes they're supposed to pay, and which exact ones?
You see, like I mentioned, Wahiga, first we look at the different profession. You'll find, like, for withholding tax, we'll have different rates. You'll find there's 3% for those who are professionals in the contractual field. You'll find that doctors have a different rate. So what we normally do, we look at, one, again, what are the possibilities of you making this many expenses, for example. And then once you engage, and you can only do this if we engage the players in that particular sector. And then after that, the law is passed and you'll have your specific rates that you will pay. Remember, everything else withstanding, at the back of it all, we always look at your turnover. So your turnover is what will determine how much you're paying. We can be all doctors in the same field, but I'm a doctor who's been in that field forever, so I charge higher costs. Vis-a-vis, I'm just someone who's starting out. So what will determine how much you're paying will simply come down to how much did you earn? And how much did you earn? How much expenses uh, did it cost you to be able to earn uh, that particular income that you earn at the end of the day? So depending on the different types of sectors that we have, some will have, like I mentioned earlier, some will have special that is just for them because we feel it's easier, and with that we'll be able to accommodate them. Like let's say, for example, in the matatu industry, what they pay is what we call an advance tax. So they pay it way early starting the when they're starting the when they're starting just to trade at the beginning of the year. You see, then we give them that as an opportunity. We also give our taxpayers across an opportunity to make this payment. Pole pole. We'll give you an opportunity to do it in installment so that come the end of the year, you don't think that this is a huge amount of tax for you to pay. So it is fairly and squarely related on the nature of business that you do, how much you've earned, and that is what will determine how much taxes you're going to pay at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you very much. Jocelyn asks, Jocelyn Betiquino, thank you for joining us. Who initiates the refund process? Is it I as the taxpayer, or is it KRA that sends? Because you say the system is automated. Is it automated
Yes.
enough to remind me that I have a refund I need to claim?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay,
With the
so I believe
system,
that's
yes.
an update that will be coming up.
Yes, it's something that we can think about moving
Okay,
forward.
okay,
Yes, so no, it won't prompt you. It won't prompt you to make the refund. But we've made it in such a way that you will definitely see that tab Wahiga. You can be rest assured when you go into your profile, you'll be able to see where you're supposed to make uh, application for the refunds. We've made it so easy for you to be able to apply for that refund because we'll ask you to attach some documentation just to be able to support the refund that you're claiming. And remember, the refund that you'll claim will be guided when you file a tax return. The only prompt that our system will give you, a HIGA, is when you file your return. You see, when you file your return and you filed, you're almost submitting your return.
mm-hmm.
If when the system realizes that you have a refund and you did not indicate a bank account where you want the refund when it's processed to be directed to, the system will prompt you to go back and fill in those details. As at now, that is the only thing that you have. So maybe our participants can take it as a cue. When you see that when you're filing and the system takes you back and prompts you to put your account number, put that account number. Because once the refund is processed, whatever you'll have put in that particular account number is what will be used to give you back your refund.
Okay, great. I also see another question from Sarah Kamau, who's asking, how long does it take for additional VAT assessment to be credited on a company's iTax portal? I think it's because she's also faced a challenge there.
So maybe I'll just explain what normally happens. Each and every single one of us, myself included, I have an account manager. So the job of that particular manager is to be able to just follow my accounts and see whether I'm giving the right information or not. And then they are going to give you an assessment. So when they give you an assessment, they're definitely going to give you timelines. So what I'd encourage our viewers today, as much as possible, look at the communication that you receive from the account manager, because you will always receive some communication to that effect. And they will tell you, come on this particular day and on this day. And what that will do, it will lift it from being a conversation with maybe a computer to a conversation with an actual person who will be able to guide you through what is expected at the end of the day. So I'd strongly advise our viewers right now to, if you find yourself in that situation, just walk into your tax service office. And your tax services office, as we had mentioned earlier, is the one that is closest to you. They will be able to check in the system, be able to guide you, and be able to let you know just how fast that will be done for you. Thank you,
Okay,
Wahiga.
thank you very
Mm.
much. Coming back again to another question about refunds, it seems very many people want their refunds. Somebody asks again, do refunds actually happen? I thought there's a limit to how much you can claim as expenses also.
The limit to how much you can claim as expenses, there's no limit to how much you can claim as expenses per se. It's not a number. The only thing that I'll say is, because the law says it should be wholly and exclusive attached to that particular business. You cannot claim any other. Um, and I'll give an example. You can be maybe I'm in content making business. On the side, I have rental. On the side, I have agriculture. I'm getting some, what is called, some commission somewhere. All these are making up one person. So you'll find when you'll be filing your returns, we have all these specific tabs for you to be able to just knock yourself out and give ourselves and tell us, this is what I traded. In my farming business, this is how much I made, and these were my expenses. That is allowed. But you see, I cannot take an expense that is for farming. Clearly, I can see it's for farming and take it because I'm the same person trading. I take that expense to the business that I have or my side hustle as a content creator. That is not allowed. So each particular aspect of each particular sector in business that you're doing will allow you to claim specific expenses that can be directly attributed to particular that particular business that you've done. That being said, you will find yourself in a business, and picture this, Wahiga. I've just started business. I've started my business. I'm new, so chances are very high. At some point, I will trade before I break even, right? So before I break even, before I reach that break even, my expenses will most definitely be more than my income at that particular point. So these are some of the scenarios that you'll find that you're all when you're filing, you'll find yourself in either refunds position. And for VAT, what I like for VAT is with VAT, you just push that credit to the next month. So that what the system does is continue offsetting up to that point when you will have finished the refunds that you're supposed to incur. So for clarity, it is not a number, it is just you should not put any expenses that cannot be linked to that particular business or source of income.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Where can people get the information about the tax funds online or somewhere? How can they get that information?
To get that information, it is available on all our social media platforms. If you go to our website, that is Kenya Revenue Authority, our Facebook pages, our Twitter space, if I had mentioned, if you call our call center, we will be able to answer. Feel free to ask any question through our call center, because when you ask that question, we'll be able to just give you that information the way you're asking for it. As I had mentioned earlier, we have the KRA TV, which is our repository. So what you're doing with that is when Wahiga, a person in sector A, tells me that these are the kind of challenges that we have, these are the kind of expenses that we receive, and this is what happens, we customize the content for them so that when I'm speaking a language that they understand. So, and then we post it in that repository so that you'll be able to retrieve it anytime when you want. So those are the areas that you'll be able to get this information. And please come for our training sessions because they are all about clarifying the taxes for you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I see a comment from Maureen A.S. Wambani. Oh, thank you. She credits. Okay. She says, in this era of content creation, the KRA team should consider having Wahiga as on the informative channel where we can just listen in at any time. Asante sana, Maureen, for that. That's a plus. And what are the channels where people, actually the informative channel where people can listen to this information? Could you mention those again?
So I've mentioned we have Kenya Revenue Authority, and that is the YouTube page, the YouTube page, TikTok. What is this other one that you post pictures on? Instagram,
Instagram.
Twitter, LinkedIn. Where else are we at? Yeah, I think, yes, you'll find ourselves there. And you'll also find us on KRA TV. KRA TV is, again, you can find us on Facebook, find us on Facebook, and find us on YouTube. And this is purely, the videos that you'll find on KRA TV are quite long, because we usually sort of dissect each and every single query that you have, so that you'll be able to understand them better.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Another question from Brian Derito. He's asking, how does exemption process take for persons with disabilities? Also, could you please tell us a bit more on how that works for persons with disabilities, or rather living with disabilities?
So what happens, Wahiga, is any person living with disability is entitled to the first 150,000 that they earn per month is exempt from taxes. But for you to be able to enjoy it, you need to make an application for you to be given the exemption. Now, what happens? The exemption involves not just KRA, but involves other players as well. So one, I can say, if Wahiga, I was, maybe I could not hear properly. Even if you were to come to KRA for me to examine you, even if you were to give me the whole day, 2 years, I will still not be able to tell whether or not you can hear or not. So one of the players that we have is the doctors or the hospitals. They need to be able to examine you and ascertain that for sure you have whichever disability that you could be having. Again, there's the national councils for persons with disability. They need to register you. So you're usually registered and then you're given a card. Because if we remove these particular measures, then everyone will be able to claim and say that they have some disabilities. So, and then there's KRA. And of course, KRA, being that we are the ones who are supposed to be able to grant the exemptions that you've been given. So what normally happens, you will register, you will be asked, of course, if you're making a registration, they're going to ask you for a number of documents. One that is top of my head, given that this is administered by the National Council, is they usually ask you for your letter of introduction. They're going to ask you if you have any report from the doctor to show the nature of your disability, among other documentations that they may require. So once they do the ascertaining and do all that, that is when Kitambo used to have to come to KRA. So imagine you're coming with your documents from the doctor, and then I come. I don't know how we were supposed to look at you and determine if that is true or even verify those letters. And then after that, we were to give you a tax compliance certificate. But nowadays, when we realize that the only role that KRA plays in that particular exemption at that particular stage is just to give you a tax compliance certificate, we automated the process so that if you're compliant, all you need to do is apply for that tax compliance certificate, and then now deal with these other partners that we have to make sure they verify, register you, and make application for your exemption certificate. So the National Councils for Persons with Disability will assist you to get that exemption. And once you get that exemption, you're going to now come back with the exemption, and will be able, you don't even need to come to KRA. You just need to take it to your employer, and your employer will be able to grant you that particular incentives that you desire. Now, on the issue that you're being asked, how long does it take? Because there are many players involved, Wahiga, I may not say how long it takes for the doctor to ascertain. I may not say how long it takes for the National Council to apply, given that I know it's probably fast come, fast serve. So they need to be able to just serve in that particular order. From KRA's side, all you need from us is the tax compliance certificate, which as far as you're concerned, when you are compliant, you get it instantly, just to be able to fast track that particular process. I hope that clarifies that particular issue.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for that. A few more questions I see from anonymous people. If I am married and we file our taxes together, first, is there a possibility for that? And are there exemptions for filing taxes together as a married couple compared to single? I guess single single people.
I am laughing, Wahiga, because it used to be the opposite.
Let us hear.
when
Please
people
tell
used
us.
to when people used to file the returns together, it used to
Uh-huh.
put the taxes higher. But yes, it's possible for you to file a return together. It's and when you file the return, could be a bit biased. You can file it through the husband's PIN number. And what we've done in the given day and age and era where we are, in as much as you're married, you are still sort of two separate
Entities.
individuals. Yes, you're two separate entities, and it will be very unfair for us to say that. Remember, I mentioned that taxes is the more you earn, the more you pay. So it will be very unfair for me to add for example, for myself, they take what I earn plus what my husband's earn, and then we say that is one income. So for that particular reason, what KRA has done, in view of what I've just mentioned, in as much as you'll file one return, you'll realize that the return gives you option to file that return or account for your taxes separately.
Okay.
So that means there'll be, if you go to that return, how it looks like, there's an option for myself, that is self as the husband, and then wife's option to file. So you will fill in all the details of the wife. If the wife is, for example, entitled to an exemption, she can enjoy that exemption at that particular point, and then the husband is well able, does not get to enjoy it. So that at the end of the day, yes, you filed one return, but you're fair enough to make sure that each individual, the husband and the wife, has paid the correct tax. That being said, there is no advantage, no incentive that you get for filing one return. The only incentive that you get is, instead of filing many different returns, you just get the opportunity to do one. Mufanye mumalizane.
So you can file separately or together.
Yeah.
Doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
you can file it separate. It does not matter. Yes.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Let me see another
Yeah.
question. It's interesting, the man of things people are asking, especially when it comes to matters tax. On VAT, somebody still is requesting to know more about the SACCO mortgage relief. Lydia Mumanyi, thank you for that question. SACCO mortgage relief. Actually, let's start with all the reliefs that were there, and now which ones have been removed or will be removed.
Why are you anticipating that some will be removed?
Well, as you said, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea.
But if all of us were to pay, if all of us were to dedicate and pay, the taxes, which even will go down, because what we want is there's a budget, and if we can fill it with many people, so be it. I can assure you the government is not out there to tax you more. I know that's a misconception that people think right now. It's just that we are finding ourselves in a situation where taxes has to be collected so that we can be able to cater for the expenses that we have. So in
Actually,
terms
now,
of,
before you even
yes,
answer then the question that I asked, then let me just catch you while you're there, because somebody is asking, when the tax band increases, will the taxes be reduced?
no. For now, as of now, okay, Wahiga, the only thing that can lead to the taxes being reduced. And this, I'll be very honest, in the 17 years that I've worked for KRA, we've had incidences where taxes has been reduced. And a case in point is was turnover tax. And it was simple. Why? More people were brought into the tax base and we were able to reach our target for that particular time. So if the only way that we'll be able to reduce the taxes is if more people come in on board, so that we do not burden just a few, but be able to spread this burden to all of us at the end of the day. So I encourage us, let's encourage our friends, our families out there to just pay their fair share. It will go a long, long way in cushioning us from the taxes that we're currently having right now. So so you asked me about
The reliefs.
relief. Yes. So there's something we call non-taxable reliefs. And on the non-taxable relief, I've mentioned the 150,000 that is specifically given to persons with disability. Two, there is the mortgage relief. And how mortgage relief work? Remember, we are government. It's not like, people tend to think that there is KRA, there is the government, and then there is us. We are all government. We are all government. And at the end of the day, the whole reason why government is there is not to punish its own people. The government is there to be able to give you the life that you deserve. And that is why they'll come up with these initiatives to be able just to increase and upgrade the kind of life that we have. So for mortgage in particular, we looked at the government and they said they want the citizen to be able to afford, just afford a decent home. So these people do it by getting mortgages. It's very popular and very common. So to encourage the citizens to be able to own their own homes, there's an incentive. And the incentive is, you see the interest that you pay to the bank or to the bank that you've taken your loan, that is usually exempt from tax. So let's say, for example, if you're earning 200,000, we'll first ask you to remove the 15% that you're paying to service that mortgage, so that will now start calculating the taxes. The other one that we have is NSS. I'll call it NSSF, but it's not necessarily NSSF. Any amount that you're paying towards a retirement benefit scheme, Aquino, NSSF, and any other. Because again, the government wants to encourage you to save for your future. This again is also exempt from taxes. You do not pay any tax. Other reliefs that we have, I'll say these ones you get them now after you've been taxed. You see, the non-taxable, you get them before we start taxing you. But these other reliefs that I'm about to talk about will only give you after you have been taxed. So currently, every Kenyan, and I say Kenyan because it's not extended to non-residents. Every Kenyan is entitled to 2,400 as tax relief. So when I come, we tax you, and then I discovered you need to pay 10,000. 2,400 is tax relief that every Kenyan receives, from the president all the way down. We also have reliefs around if you have a health insurance that has an attachment of life policy to it. 15% of what you pay is given as relief. We also have insurance in life and insurance that you pay towards an education policy. Again, if you look closely at these particular reliefs that you're giving, they're just to be able to just improve the value that you give to you as a Kenyan. So, and then now that is that. We have some reliefs that are sector specific, and agriculture is the agriculture sector is one sector that enjoys reliefs. And the reason is pure Wahiga. We derive, if you look at us as a country, agriculture is a huge part of us. So to be able to just encourage and groom and grow this particular sector, there are specific reliefs that they usually receive. And one of the relief, you'll find that even the way we charge their housing benefit is slightly different from the way we'll charge someone who is in town. And this is just so that we prevent urbanization. We tell you where and go do the farm, and then this relief will be given so that you'll be able to just grow this business. We have others that are specific. I know someone mentioned something about SACCOs. And if we go back to asking about, if you look at SACCO, because remember the mortgage relief is standard, because we'll just ask, where did you get the mortgage from? Did you get it from, is it on our act, on the schedule? Is it listed as an institution that you can receive a mortgage from? If yes, then you will be entitled to the same relief. For SACCO's business, you'll find that they have a special rate of tax that we give them. There's some incentives we give them. And because if you look at the nature of the SACCOs, at the end of the day, when they when a SACCO lends you money, they're not lending so that they can make necessarily interest. They're lending mostly to be able to encourage you to grow yourself. So again, Wahiga, this is depending on which sector you're at. Reliefs, they vary, and what it is that you're trying to groom at that particular time.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 14 minutes to go before we close this session. Please feel free to bring in your comments, questions, and opinions. We would like to hear from you before Corazon goes. Corazon, asante sana for keeping on educating people on this. I see another question from Joe, who's asking, and when you start receiving your retirement payments, are they taxed? Will they be taxed?
Sorry, sorry, Wahiga, I missed that question.
When you start receiving your retirement payments, I think that's the pension, will they be
Yes.
taxed?
Yes, pension usually receives, it's usually taxed, but when you receive pension that is above 25K per month.
So only if
So
it's
the
above
amount,
25,000.
yes, only if it's about above 25,000, that is when you will be taxed.
Interesting. Okay, I
Yes,
see
yeah.
another question from Nick, who is asking, during registration of a service providing company, we mistakenly opted into the VAT. We later discovered that VAT returns are supposed to be filled on a monthly basis, but we have already been penalized. Any advice on first how to get out of the VAT, or if it's even possible? And then number two, should they even have a VAT in the meantime? And number three, what level or income of business is charged a VAT, or is it all across the board?
So at what point should you register for VAT? I had mentioned if you're earning 5 million and above annually, then you qualify to register for VAT. Again, I said this is not cast in stone. If you look at the nature of business that you're dealing with, your suppliers mostly charge you VAT. I strongly encourage you to register for VAT. But on the issue of how do you
Opt out.
out of the VAT, first of all, you can't opt out when you're having uko na madeni. That's not possible. The system the system is not going to accept you to opt out, because it will look like you're just running away from your debt that you have. So what you'll do, I'd advise you, file your returns. File all the returns that you're supposed to file. And Nick, I'm very happy to tell you that today is your lucky day. You've you fall in that category of the taxpayers that we were describing earlier on, who we say, in as much as I will come collect and it's not possible, so for this particular reason, I'm giving you amnesty. So I'd strongly advise you, Nick, file all the return, make applications for the amnesty. We have a detailed step by step on how you can actually apply for this amnesty, and any questions that you have on KRA TV. If you just go to a KRA TV platform, you'll be able to find a lot of detailed information on how to go about amnesty and applying for it. And then once you get the amnesty, the debt will be waived, what you currently have, and then you can apply for the registration of VAT. So that is what you need to do for you to be able to avoid again finding yourself in this particular situation where you are at. And before you get the amnesty and be deregistered, I still encourage you to just file nil returns as you continue. I hope, Nick, that answers that question.
I hope it also answers the question. So,
Mm.
so to add upon that, I will talk about also. So actually, before I get into that, because it's another question, where are your
Yeah.
offices in Westlands? But actually, how can anybody get the locations? Is there a map somewhere that they can just get the locations of all KRA offices within whichever location?
Yes, if you go to our website, you'll be able to get information of our exact locations where we are at, a map to just show you where we are at the end of the day. So please visit our website. That information is available for you. But just to answer that quick question, where is our offices in Westlands? We have our offices at Fortis building.
Fortis building.
Yeah.
Fortis building. Okay, thank you very much for that. You've answered actually most of the questions, and I really appreciate your time with us. I also see some different questions. Good. Now, what are the consequences for businesses and individuals who fail to comply with their tax obligations? Watu wanataka kujua kiboko ni gani?
I mentioned earlier, Nick is currently suffering from one: penalties. Penalties and interest. You will
Penalties
definitely get,
and interest.
yes. Remember, like I mentioned earlier, our system is fully automated. So the minute you register for whichever tax you'll register for, there's some expectation that the system will expect. So if it's VAT and I don't get, the system does not receive your return by 20th, that is automatic. By 20th midnight, the system will give you the penalty of 10,000 for not filing. Some will decide to file and then say that they'll pay later. Maybe hapo katikati kuna ka emergency kanatokea. You will get interest. Interest of whichever amount you're supposed to pay, there's going to be an interest that will be there and will keep recurring. If we find that you've not been paying taxes, then enforcement comes in. Hata tukikustua na hii hakuna. So at that particular point, that is when we'll now deploy other other ways of getting to you. And I know some can be a bit harsh, including putting a caveat on your wherever on your accounts, just so that you'll be able to prompt you to make the payment for your taxes. Will take you to court if you feel especially you're evading the taxes. You might find yourself in court, and depending on how the court rules, you might find yourself going to jail. So these are some of the many scenarios that are there if you do not pay your taxes. But for me, in all this, Wahiga, you'll be shocked. For me, is the fact that for you, it might look like it's only something that you're doing for yourself, but it's affecting the whole country at the end of the day. Remember, we have every time when you evade, every time when you fail to pay your taxes on time, there is a direct ripple effect to how our country is being affected at the end of the day. So for me, I'll just sort of tap into our moral standards and our integrity and just ask us, for the sake of our country, let's just pay the taxes in good time. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. So recently, KRA has sent in field agents. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Which I must say, first looking at it on a positive, it's it's a job to many youths who have not had jobs for a while. So thank you for that. But how exactly do you report a misdemeanor by an agent? Like if an agent comes and asks for a bribe or does something harmful to your property, etc., just in form of scaring a citizen, considering that they're representing KRA, how can the citizens report that?
So Wahiga, before I answer that question, I'd also say all our staff are trained and we try our level best to be customer centric. But one problem that we struggle with, especially with our recently employed staff, is you'll also find someone posing as a KRA staff who are not necessarily a KRA staff. So
Exactly.
the first thing that I'm going to advise us is, one, when a KRA staff comes to your premise, because they'll come, they should always wear a badge. I'm currently wearing one. We always have our badges on because it's the form of identifying us. Because even if you are to report, you need to be able to report someone, not just randomly and saying that there is a KRA person who came in. So they will always have some form of identification. So once you establish that that is they've identified themselves, you still have an option to verify if they are really KRA staff. And we have an app for it. It's available on our M-Service app. Or if you go to our website, you'll find an option for verifying whether or not that is a staff. And what that will do for you, it will give you their details, their grades, and exactly where they are stationed. So at least at that particular point, you will have full details of whoever you want to report. So that being said, we have options. We have options, and one, you can report anonymously on email. That is cic@kra.go.ke. You can walk into KRA offices. We have a specific office on 26th floor that its job is specifically to ensure that it's anonymous and no one is going to come after you. And their job is just to be able to get that feedback that you have. Another option that we have, which is also anonymous, is our iWhistle platform. Gives you an opportunity to give any information that you want to give us, description as much as you want to give that to us, you will be able to just give that information at the end of the day. So those are the avenues that we have in place for you to be able to report anything that you feel should be brought to the attention of KRA at the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay. How, if as we end this session, how exactly are the people in the diaspora meant to pay their taxes?
Waiga, that's a long story, but we have what we normally do. You realize that our system is it's again automated, and the fact that it's automated means that you can access our systems from anywhere you are. And like I mentioned earlier, it is not casting stone, meaning when you're filing your return, I'll give you an opportunity to tell me your story. I work for company wherever in US. This is how much I pay, and then you pay your taxes at the end of the day. It gives you that options. For some countries, we have something we call double tax agreements. And with double tax agreements, what happens is that we agree that whichever whichever is stated on the agreement, either you get to pay your taxes from where you are or not. And just to be able to support Kenyans in the diaspora, we usually have specific sessions that we hold for them in their time zones that is comfortable for them, just to be able to take them through so that they understand what is expected at the end of the day. So that is how we support the Kenyans in the diaspora. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the close of our session today. Thank you so much, Corazon. Thank you so much for so much information. And I hear we are still not yet done. So I need to tell everybody we'll be doing this again, so don't you worry. But we have put up the KRA anti-corruption reporting line, the system. So kindly, you can check your screens for that. The whistle, it's a whistle KRA.go.ke, and that's the telephone. So there's also a telephone number 0709 017 700 or 7800 or 0800 721 888. And it's a toll-free line, so feel free to reach out to them. And this, again, is for ease of identification for the field officers. This is for reporting, sorry, but if you need an identification for the officers, they will have KRA staff identification tags or cards and be in uniform. Additionally, as the public, you are also allowed to authenticate before allowing entry of the staff details using the USSD number 572 hash, or use KRA Thibitisha app, which is available on KRA website or through the KRA M service app. Did I get that right? Also remember, there's a whistleblowing line, which is www.iwhistle.kra.go.ke. Thank you so much, Corazon, for allowing us to do this. Corazon is the Marketing and Communications Officer at Tax Education at Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, also famously known as KRA for those who don't know. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll bring this session to an end and hope for another day to do this again. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wahiga K. Muturi, and I am thankful for all of you who have joined today. We have had an audience of 53,238. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. The questions are too much, too many also. We can't answer all of them. But for those which were high priority and kept repeating, we've just made sure to answer that. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ohiga K. Muturi. I would also like to give thanks to KYR Africa, Startinev, The Future of Work, and Let's Create Africa, whom have been with us through this journey. Corazon, asante sana. I'm looking forward to continue this conversation. And just for the sake of those who don't know what goes behind the scenes, please stay on as we continue with this conversation even after we end. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening. God bless you. Take care of yourselves. It's been real. It's been great to have all of you here. We really appreciate. Again, my name is Wahiga K. Muturi, and it's been a pleasure hosting all of you. This is Let's Create Africa, the webinar. Thank you.